Welcome to learn some basics of AnimateMate. Let's start from positioning. Here we have a single layer item where we want to make simple position animation. So select AnimateMate and create animation. Here you can set keyframe number and select easing type for animation. As you can see, AnimateMate uses layer name to store all attributes. Now change the position and put another keyframe here, and you need to specify easing type only once when you create your animation layer. It is layer specific and every layer can have its own easing type. And now we are done with all keyframes and we can export animation to desktop. Simple as that, and we got animation straight out of Sketch. How awesome is that? Let's take a look at rotation. Here we have balls inside of a single group. We cannot rotate them individually in this case, as you can see. So we need to use a group here to make them rotate as one group. So let's put first keyframe here and select easing type. Let's take linear. When we set rotation value to 360, Sketch automatically converts it to 0. There is a workaround for this, but let's now put 359 there and set the second keyframe here. Export animation to desktop, and we are done with this. Okay, nice rotation animation, except that first and last keyframes are the same, as you can see. We can fix this easily by adjusting range values in export dialog. And so now rotation looks right. Let's take a look at the scale. Here we have two boxes. We want to make simple scale animation for both of those. Just select items that you want to animate and set keyframe number and select easing type. So now you have an animation in those layers. And if you want to change easing type easily, just select change easing type and override existing keyframe numbers like this. Okay, let's create another keyframe for the items. And in the last keyframes I want to use the same values as in the first ones. So I recall values from the specific keyframe numbers and set the last keyframe for those values. Now just export animation to desktop and let's see what we got. Nice simple looping scale effect with a couple of steps. Next one is opacity. Here we have 4 different opacity rectangles. Let's just put first keyframes here and change some opacity values. Put second keyframe on there and export GIF animation to desktop. As you can see, it works, but there's a flickering effect. It's because GIF compression. But we can avoid this by just exporting the PNG sequence that is lossless, and maybe convert it to animated GIF in Photoshop or something like that, so we can get more control in quality. Let's delete some keyframes. Here we have layers with animation and we want to get rid out of those. And just select the layer and select delete animation. Like that. This affects all the selected layers or groups, but remember that it doesn't affect items inside of groups. So remember, it only works for selected items. And if you don't have anything selected, it will delete all animations on the active artboard. Let's check this very useful feature called return keyframes. Here we have a couple of items. First, let's put some keyframes on those and then shuffle and put another keyframe. Then select return keyframes, and you see there's all of those 2 keyframes. And as you see, we can switch between those keyframes easily. Select a single one and let's put keyframe only for that item. So now that item have 3 different keyframes there, deselect all to affect all items at the same time, and as you can see there is also that keyframe from that single item. So when we select that individual keyframe, it only affects items that have a keyframe on that number. Let's see another useful case of a return keyframes feature. I'll create very simple example of UI layout of some kind. So I create a couple ordering here, and I also create keyframes for those. So 3 different orders or layout ordering. Then the best part, you can switch easily between your layouts just calling them by keyframe numbers. So this is pretty useful feature. Okay, let's edit some existing animations. Here we create 1 keyframe to item, so now it has an animation. We have a better option for editing values manually. Just select edit animation and you get more readable option for editing your keyframes than just typing them to the layer name. And here we have data, and we can go the next line by pressing Alt and Enter, and we just copied that data and changed the keyframe number here and opacity. And now when we go back and let's see, we have those both keyframes here. And remember that you can modify only 1 animation at a time. So let's take a look at the groups. And we have here 4 different groups. We want to rotate all of them separately. So let's create keyframes from those and pick random easing here. And now let's rotate and let's create another keyframe here. Now just export and let's see what we got. And here's the result. Everything works properly. And let's continue this example with nested groups. So now we want to rotate all of those together in 1 group. We want 2 different level of rotations, so let's put those to the new group like this and set keyframes on the first one and then some rotation and second keyframe here. So let's export this. And now when we export, we'll see that there is a problem with the groups because they jumps in the wrong positions. Let's see how it works in actual render. As you see, it doesn't look right. So let me explain why this is happening. We have a parent group and child groups here. We calculate these child group position based on the parent group. At the top left point, it's like an anchor point. So in this example, parent anchor point is not in a 0 position, but we can create empty bounds layer like this. So now the actual parent anchor point position is on 0. And let's see how it looks like when we render it out. And everything works now properly. So groups not always the best way to work, but you can still work with those. That's it for now, and remember that this is only a prototype version of AnimateMate plugin, and the way you work now might change in the future. I hope you'll find this animation plugin useful in Sketch. Thank you and goodbye.